And now I get to my theme here. We're going to run it back with Micah Parsons. You know me, we made a music video about Micah's first couple of years because he was a game wrecker. 11 from heaven, Micah. And I overreacted. I'll be the first to admit it. My cowboy blood began to percolate and took me over. And I leaped to a conclusion that Micah already belonged at least in the same sentence with Lawrence Taylor, and he does not, and it appears he never will. I was wrong about Micah Parsons. I'll be the first to admit it. He has explosive ability, but he's not big and strong enough to dominate, even the way Charles Haley did back through the 90s. He was the missing link in those Super Bowl teams, and that was a Jerry Jones special. Jerry went and got Charles Haley from San Francisco, our arch rival within the NFC, because Charles had become more trouble than he was worth for the 49ers, and they said, yeah, we'll give him to you, and they did. They basically gave him away to Dallas and gave us 3 Super Bowls that should have been 5 Super Bowls straight, if not Jimmy and Jerry falling apart. Charles Haley was the ultimate difference maker. You could double team him and he would rip through double teams. You could chip block him and he would laugh at you. You could single block him with an all-pro left tackle and he would bull rush him and knock him on his behind. Charles Haley, he was a whole nother level from what Micah can do. Micah's just not big and strong enough. He's fast enough. He's quick enough. But I keep hearing the theme every game from every national TV commentator. The key here is you can't let Micah wreck the game. Well, even Sunday night against the Bucs, did he wreck the game? He had 1 sack, and I can't even remember it, which was his only quarterback hit. He did have 5 tackles, which is above his average. But I remind you, going back to that Green Bay game, he had his worst stats of his career because they were just zeros across the board in that game against Green Bay. Big game player? I don't know. I haven't seen that. He wrecked games early on because nobody knew how to deal with him. He's just a speed rusher. That's it. But if you get a piece of him early at the line of scrimmage, if you don't whiff on him, he has a hard time. And if you hit him hard enough early, he starts to run out of gas. We saw against the Bucs late in the game, he was just running out of gas. He's not strong enough to overpower without expending all of his energy and being gassed for a few plays. Would I trade Micah? It would depend what I could get back. But if I could get King's ransom for him, I would think about it very strongly. Trade him to Philadelphia. I just think they're going to go win the Super Bowl, so they're not going to need him. They sure don't need him right now because they got the best defense in pro football. I'll get to that in just a moment. But let's start with the bigger picture about Micah. Let's talk about Micah and his money. Will Jerry Jones make Micah Parsons the highest paid defensive player ever? And I start with this. Micah did make news last week by saying, number one, he does not want to hold out. Well, thank you for that. Number two, Micah said he'd take a little less than top dollar if it meant having better talent around him on that Cowboy defense. I love Micah saying that. Even if his agent and the players' union did not. His agent will not take less than top dollar. But here's the point. When it comes to negotiating with Jerry, Micah Parsons has no idea what he's about to get into and go through. You know, Micah can still be a little kid-like, a little naive, a little goofy, a little too much into himself and his superstardom to see the bigger picture. So, Micah, allow me to explain to you exactly what will happen as you pursue your new long-term contract. What's going to happen is the same thing that happened to Emmitt Smith and to Ezekiel Elliott and to Dak Prescott twice and now to CeeDee Lamb. Jerry Jones has the biggest and most unchecked ego in the National Football League, bigger than any other owner's or player's ego. Biggest ego in NFL history belongs to Gerald Wayne Jones Jr. So Jerry will begin this negotiation by making an insultingly lowball offer that will anger Micah and especially his agent, and force Micah to hold out and miss all the offseason program and all of training camp. You know why? Because this way, Jerry can be the center of media attention for, 4 or 5 months. Jerry will be constantly asked about Micah. Will this get done, Jerry? Jerry, would you consider trading Micah? Jerry, will Micah missing camp hurt this team? Jerry will be in all his glory for the next 4 or 5 months. Jerry loves stars holding out. Protracted holdouts make Jerry an even bigger star than he is. Holdouts allow Jerry to go to dinner with his family and with friends and privately boast about teaching old Micah a lesson here, putting him in his place. This is Jerry's way of still, quote unquote, competing at football. Remember, he did start at offensive guard for a national championship team at Arkansas. He did do that. But this way, at age 82, Jerry can still go one-on-one with one of his stars in a negotiation. Who's the stronger and the tougher man? Who blinks first? Jerry loves this. But we all know how these things always end with Jerry and Star, with the Star winning. So once the Cowboys break camp, once they return to Dallas this next summer, watch what happens. Jerry always caves. He always gives the Star the biggest contract ever at his position. Why? Because Jerry also loves his image of being Daddy Warbucks with the deepest pockets, like a father to all of his stars, the owner of the world's most valuable team, paying his superstars the most money. Paying top dollar is good for the metallic blue brand. Jerry Jones almost always overpays his stars, except for CD, who deserve more than Justin Jefferson. CD's balling. He's got a banged up shoulder and it just doesn't, he just toughs through it. He's got his money, but he just keeps playing harder and harder. That's who he is. He's the best receiver in football. But Jerry did force CD to miss camp. Micah isn't nearly as dominant at his position as CD is at his. Micah can be pretty easily, as I mentioned, and consistently neutralized. Just not big enough and strong enough to bulldoze left or right tackles the way Charles Haley did. To me, Micah has been overhyped and overrated, and I participated. I'm guilty as charged. I haven't seen him wreck a game for now a couple of years. Worst stats in that Green Bay playoff loss. I don't know. I'm just not sure about highest paid defense. Every year we go into, will he be the defensive player of the year? And he's the odds-on favorite year after year and never gets close to winning it. Won't get close this year. Obviously, he missed 4 games. But the point is, Micah was on the field for the Green Bay game and that New Orleans game to start the year and that Baltimore game. He was on the field for those games, and look what happened. But in the end, you know and I know how this thing's going to end between Micah and Jerry. By September 1st, Micah Parsons, whether I like it or not, having missed all of training camp, will become the highest paid defensive player ever. So I want to say an early congrats to number 11. You belong to Jerry Jones Country Club, managed by the Mike McCarthy you want back. Way to go, Mike.